Hold on, is that going? Yeah. Okay, so now we have Rachel, who's Natalie's sister, and Rachel is the oldest grandchild from San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so what was the most memorable thing that your parents gave you?
When I graduated from the 8th grade, it was a little country school, and we were up on the stage, and my dad came to the side of the stage and called me off of the stage and gave me this little box, and it had a ring in it, and it had my initials on it. But I opened the box and I said, "Oh, it's silver." And he says, "Yes, but it has a diamond chip in it." But I like gold.
She sounds like a San Diego, one of the San Diego girls, huh?
But anyway, I still have the ring. It has my initials on it, and the date that I graduated from Mount Pleasant School, 1936.
Is that how long Mount Pleasant's been around?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it was Mount Pleasant Grammar School. It wasn't Mount Pleasant High School. The high school wasn't even there yet.
No. Okay, I thought you were talking about the
And then on my 18th birthday, they gave me a hope chest, which really surprised me because my dad had always said, came across with the idea that you didn't have to get married. You had a good job, and that was your goal, to have a good job. But then they gave me this hope chest.
So what was in a hope chest?
Oh, what you wanted to keep for your future life.
So give us an example of something that might be in there.
Oh, embroidered pillow slips,
Oh.
towels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something for your future.
It was for your future. So does Jacob have a question on there?
He does not.
He says he has one in his head right now.
There's another page.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, he does have one.
Do you want to ask your question? You have to be kind of loud.
Really
okay,
loud, Jacob.
Where did you live when you were growing up?
I lived on a farm, and we had cows and chickens and pigs and rabbits, and my sisters and I had our chores to do. We had to feed the rabbits and the chickens and hunt the eggs, and my other sister Betty was between Joe and I. We learned to milk the cows, and we took turns milking the cows. And we learned to drive the old truck. It was an old Ruggles truck, a flatbed truck. And had 3 pedals. I don't remember that. My dad would put it in gear, and then we would steer it as he shoveled the hay off the back of the truck for the cattle.
Also, we should say that Mom's younger sister, Lucille, we call her Aunt Jo, she's here. So when you see Mom looking that way and Aunt Jo is giving some more information. So at some point, we have to get Aunt Jo sitting next to Mom for this, okay? And Aunt Jo, this isn't going to Hollywood. You don't have to worry. We're not going to release this. But we have to have your sister because you guys, are so special to us.
Did
that
you
was
have
a great
anything
question.
else, Jacob?
Who isn't here?
So,
Jack, Caitlin.
did you want to ask your sister's question? Is Katie here? Katie coming?
She's in the shower.
She was in the shower.
Annalise had a question, didn't she?
Oh, she's right here.
Yeah, Annalise has a question.
Annalise had a question.
Did Ella have a question?
Oh, Ella. Let's get here. You want to see if Ella wants to.
Yeah.
Here comes on.
Ellie, so you
Nice
have to
and
ask
loud,
your
Ella.
question. What's your question?
What pet
What's your
did
question?
you have?
Pardon, honey?
What pet did you have?
What pet or pets did you have?
Oh, we had a collie dog, named Fido, and we had a little white fox terrier named Tippy.
Annalise, come here. You have to ask your question to Grandma. What kind of question did you have?
Can you ask Grandma? Can you ask what your favorite cake was? Can you ask?
What do you want to know, honey?
Can you ask? Can you ask?
It's very special. Come on.
She's not talking.
Well, you can read it off
What was your
for her.
favorite cake?
My favorite cake?
Tell your question was?
My mom.
What was your favorite princess?
My mom used to make cakes, and any kind of a cake she made was great, but I like pineapple upside down cake.
Do you have
But
any other question for her?
Do you have a question for Grandma?
Want to ask her about a princess?
Want to ask her what a favorite princess?
Sometimes my mom would make a cake and she'd put jam in the middle of the cake. And that wasn't as good as when she put really frosting and between the layers and on top.
Does that sound good? Is that recording?
Lauren, Jack,
Okay. Who's next?
So we stop it until the other kids get here? But then you're going to have to start a new...
Yeah.
Maybe Heather had a question.
And these kids can.
Heather, you have a question for Grandma?
What's your favorite thing to cook?
My favorite thing to cook,
Yep.
tamale loaf.
and we're glad it is.
It is really good.
And I love to make pineapple upside down cake.
Oh, that sounds good.
I haven't had that one yet.
So what's your favorite food to eat?
My favorite food, oh, I don't know, I like everything.
Well, I love the, I guess, I know Marty and Larry, their favorite was pineapple upside down cake, and you would make it for them. I don't know who else, but I love the pan you make it in. And when you go to Grandma's, you ask her what that pan was, because it is special, and it makes the best pineapple upside down cake.
Oh, that's my old iron frying pan.
Mm-hmm.
My old cast iron frying pan.
So Rachel, do you want to ask some other
Annalise.
questions of people who aren't here, or someone else can
I
ask?
think we
Maybe.
should go ahead and start asking.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jack wants to ask that question. Hang on. Did we already ask what Charlie?
Yeah, just read the next
Yeah,
question. It hasn't
that's
been
a
there.
good one. What Charlie asked.
Okay, so he asked, tell us what was like living on a farm.
Oh, living on a farm. Okay, we lived way out in the country, and we had, as I said, we had cows and chickens and pigs and rabbits, and we didn't have a bathroom in the house, which is shocking now to you guys, but we had an outhouse, and we had an old zinc tub that we took a bath in, and we had a wooden stove, so they'd heat the water in a tea kettle or a pot on the stove and pour it in the bathtub, and we'd take our bath in this tub once a week.
Can you imagine that, girls? Can you imagine that? Different, huh?
What did you use for toilet paper?
We'd go to the outhouse, and we never had toilet paper. It was either the newspaper or an old Sears catalog.
Oh my God.
Page 99.
Can you imagine that?
Charlie's second question was, how did you feel when your friends were taken to Japanese internment camps?
Well,
And how old were you?
Can you repeat that, Mom, so they can, in case that wasn't loud enough on the. Can you repeat the question?
Oh, how did we feel when the Japanese left for camp? The Japanese families that lived on our place didn't go to camp. They had made arrangements and they left on their own before the camp date. And some of them went to Colorado and some went to Utah. But they were the only neighbors we had. So we grew up with these Japanese boys, and there was a couple girls, but they were mostly boys. But I can remember as, a kid, 8 or 9 years old, making mud pies with these Japanese boys. And we'd do, everything with them because they were the only neighbors we had. And then when they had to leave, we were really sad about it because, they were like our brothers. We didn't have any brothers. and a lot of people were, we felt very close to them, and a lot of people were not feeling close to the Japanese. They were the enemies. But I can remember they packed up all their farm equipment, and the morning that they left, I had made cookies, and as they drove their flatbed truck out of the driveway, I waved them down and gave them this box of cookies for their trip to Utah.
Wow.
And then we were very happy. My dad kept their houses and whatever they left there, and then when they finally came back, we were happy to see them and happy to have them back.
How old are you?
And now I go to the granddaughter of one of them is my dentist.
That's awesome. And Owen wanted to know what is your favorite baseball team?
My favorite baseball team? Oh, the Giants.
I think Owen knew that, right, Owen?
Is that okay, Owen?
How did you fall in love with Grandpa Lewis?
Oh my gosh.
Start with how you met.
Grandpa
Now we'll hear
Lewis,
disobey.
I knew who he was because as a young man, he had driven the tractor. My dad grew sugar beets one year, and this young man drove the tractor to dig up the sugar beets. And I knew that was Louis Bauman, but I didn't really have anything to do with him then. But then we had school dances, and he and his sisters were always at these school dances, and I knew that that Cecilia and Matilda were his sisters because they were dark-haired like he was. And Anna Marie was small and blonde, and I thought Anna Marie was his girlfriend.
And it was his sister.
And it was yeah. But he would dance with all these girls, and then one night he asked me to dance. And oh my gosh. And then he says, what are you doing tomorrow? He says, let's go to Santa Cruz. Well, holy Moses, that was something. And then he told, Wilbur was his friend at that time. So he tells Wilbur, we're taking these girls to Santa Cruz tomorrow, but I'm taking the silly one, you're taking the older one. Well, Wilbur took Betty and Louis took me.
Oh, I thought Wilbur took Cecilia.
Oh, no, Cecilia wasn't in the picture yet then.
So wait, who was the silly one then?
What?
You were the silly one.
Yeah, I was the silly one.
Okay.
And how old were you then?
Oh, I must have been 22, maybe 21. Anyway, then I didn't see him all summer. That was it must have been April. It was the last dance for the season. And I didn't see him all summer. And then he called on Halloween, and we went out on Halloween. And then from then on, we went out.
Inseparable from then on.
From then on, that was it. Whoops. Yeah. But oh boy, could he dance. Oh my gosh.
And how about when he would sneak you home? What would he do? Late at night.
He had a convertible, and he had buttons on the steering wheel, or the stem of the steering wheel, and they played Mary Had a Little Lamb. And he'd take me home at 2 o'clock in the morning, because the dances all went till 2 o'clock. So we'd get home, and I'd take my heels off to sneak in the house, and he'd drive out the driveway playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. And then my dad made it known that he did not approve of this combination. So from then on, I continued to date Louis, but it was very undercover.
Look at Larry's face.
And then one day he asked me to marry him. So I said yes, but I don't know how. But we worked it out.
How long did you guys date before he asked?
What?
How long did you date before Grandpa asked?
Well, our first date was Halloween, and we got married the following September. So it was a year. What?
And you lived at home until you got married.
I lived at home. I was 24 when I got married. I lived at home, and I had a job, and my dad was not happy. I had a good job. What did I want to get married for? So my dad did not talk to Louis for a long time.
What was your job?
I was I worked for a magazine distributor, and I was an accountant, like doing the. But I worked there for 8 years. In fact, I went to work. I hadn't graduated from high school. It was the month before graduation, and I walked for Mr. Milligan, and he had called the head teacher of the commercial department at the high school and said he needed a girl to work in his office. So she sent another girl and I to be interviewed. And I got the job. And he wanted me to come to work right away. And it was before graduation. And I the last 2 weeks that you're a senior at high school,
That's an important time.
I went to work.
Oh, you did go to work then?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
How much did you earn?
35 cents an hour, $70 a month.
Wow.
That was a lot of money back then, though.
That was a lot of money. That was in 1940. That was a lot of money,
Did they
yes.
give you your diploma?
What?
Did they give you your
Oh,
diploma?
yeah. I had the time off to go to practice for graduation.
Wow.
And you had top grades too, right? All A's, right?
Yeah, I belonged to Torch and Laurel, which was the Girls' Honor Society. Did you get into? Yeah, Betty and you and I, we all did. Yeah.
Awesome.
You have another question there, Natalie?
Bella has a question.
Okay.
What, Bella?
Nice and loud, Bella.
Bella wants to know what was your favorite TV show when you were a little girl? When you were a little tiny kid.
We didn't even have TV, Bella. We didn't have TV until I think it was maybe 1951. And we didn't know, we barely had the radio. My grandmother's brother and his wife lived in San Francisco, and they had a radio, and they would come down every other weekend and bring their radio and plug it in on Saturday. So we had Saturday night and Sunday morning, we had the radio when Uncle Henry and Aunt Karina were there. And I can remember Amos and Andy.
On the radio.
And Cecil and Sally. But we didn't have TV until after you.
Yeah.
Martin,
When
you
did
guys
you have
were,
TV? When did you have TV?
It was in probably 1951 when we didn't have TV till we moved to the house on Valley View Avenue.
Yeah, I remember. It was a black and white TV, and yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. And Friday night, Dad would watch the fights, the boxing match. And we couldn't mess with the TV on Friday night. Jack wants to ask you a question, Grandma.
How did it feel like to be in 3rd and 2nd grade?
Oh, I was a big, when I went into the 3rd grade, I was a big cheese. Then you had to study hard because the 1st and 2nd grade were easy. But when you got to be in the 3rd grade, that was business.
But you had all the classes in the same room, right? Or did you?
Oh, there was 2 classes or 3 classes in the same room. Yeah, I went to there were just 4 classrooms. It was an 8th grade school, and the 1st and 2nd were in one room, and the 3rd and 4th, and the 5th and 6th, and the 7th and 8th were the big shots.
When did you learn to drive?
When did I learn to drive? Oh, I learned to drive when, well, I guess must have been maybe 13 or 14, and I could steer the truck. My dad would put it in gear, and we would steer it around the pasture while he pitched hay off the back. But to drive a car, I didn't do that till I was probably 17.
So Lauren's here. You want to ask her a question, Lauren?
Sure.
I have another.
Describe the difficulties of having siblings.
Loaded question.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I was the oldest, and my sister Betty was just a year younger than I. But there was just the 2 of us for, 8.5 years before Aunt Jo came along. And I used to tease Betty something awful. Oh, I did. She would cry very easily.
And what was the age difference between you and Betty?
A year.
Oh, a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
My birthday was August 11th and hers was August 23rd. And I can remember just teasing her, just to be nasty.
No, Grandma being nasty, we don't believe that. Grandma was normal. See that, guys?
But Betty wanted to be a boy. And as soon as school was out, she'd get her hair cut short like a boy. And all summer she'd wear jeans and boys' clothes. She was a good athlete. She played baseball and basketball, and I remember when we were driving, we'd go, after we both had jobs and were working during the summer, we'd always go to Santa Cruz for the weekend with our friends. And Papa would say, "You let Betty drive." To me. And I'd always thought, oh, he doesn't think I can drive.
Why do you think he said that?
Because Betty was a boy.
Oh, okay. And she was an excellent athlete, huh?
Yeah.
Except, does everybody know about the sports Grandma played in high school? Tell them about the sports.
Oh, I played basketball and volleyball in high school.
Isn't that cool?
But didn't your dad have boys' nicknames for all of you?
Oh, we were Frank and Manuel and Joe.
Is that where Aunt Jo?
And Aunt Jo stuck.
Grandma, which one was yours? Frank?
Frank. Or was it Manuel? I don't even remember. I don't remember.
Did you walk to school?
Sometimes. We always walked home, but sometimes in the morning we were always running late, so my dad would drive us in the morning. But we always walked home. Oh, and in the summertime, oh yeah, my dad had cows and he would deliver milk to people around the neighbor on the way to school. But then I can remember in the summertime I'd ride the bicycle with the milk bottles in the basket on the handlebars and I'd deliver the milk.
And did it have a lot of cream at the top?
Yeah, it was Guernsey milk, so there was a lot of cream on it.
So they would go get milk bottles that was delivered right to their house, and they'd be able to. What would you do with that cream that you scooped out on top?
Butter. Well, they make butter with that. Or whip it on pie or cake.
Oh my gosh. The good old days.
What was your favorite princess?
My favorite princess. I don't even know if I knew a princess.
Leia.
I can remember thinking about Princess Elizabeth, who is now Queen Elizabeth, because she was a couple years younger than me, and you'd always read about Princess Elizabeth and Margaret.
Right.
And I would think, you know,
She was a real one, not a Disney princess.
yeah. No, we didn't know anything about Disney then. What's Disney?
Is Charlie here? We asked your question already about the farm, but you had.
You also asked that
Oh, and we asked the one about the tournament too.
one. Brock wanted to know what your favorite sea creature is.
My favorite one?
Your favorite sea creature.
Sea creature.
What your favorite sea animal is?
Oh, a dolphin.
A dolphin.
What about Caitlin had a Katie had a question.
Where
on
is
that.
Katie?
Is Katie here?
I think she's showering.
Taking a shower.
What would you do for your dates when you'd go on a date? Where would you go? Movies or what was there back then?
Dancing.
Dancing.
Oh my gosh, yes. We'd go dancing Saturday night and Sunday night.
What kind of dancing?
Ballroom dancing.
Ooh, fancy.
Oh yeah. Hi. What?
And did all of you know that Grandma and Papa were really good polka dancers? They did the polka. And when Uncle Marty and I got married, it was Grandma's birthday, and they were back east with us at our wedding. And the one request they had was that we play a polka dance, so they could dance the polka at our
Oh,
wedding.
the beer barrel polka. That was our favorite piece.
And they had she had beautiful polka costumes.
Oh, and then we'd go square dancing.
And square dancing, yeah,
Yeah,
square
we
dancing,
square
not polka,
dancing.
but square
You
dancing.
didn't, you didn't square dance when you were young, did you?
Oh no, that was after we were married.
Yeah.
Yeah, and had kids.
and flares.
Dad had gone to a dad's club meeting at St. John's, and he came home and he says, I signed us up to square dance. I said, you what? He says, I signed us up to square dance. So we'd go every week square dancing for years. And then we bought the motor home and we'd go square dancing all over the state.
Katie had a question, but she's in the shower. So it was, what was school like growing up?
What was what?
School like growing up?
School?
Yeah.
School was fun. Well, it was just a little country school, and there were maybe 200. No, there were 100 kids there.
Probably.
But it was like a big family because you got to know everybody and their parents. And then it was the school that put on they called themselves the Improvement Club, and the parents got together and they would meet and do projects to make the school better, and they were the ones that had the dances once a month. And all the little country schools, there was Mount Pleasant and Franklin and Berryessa and Powell, they all had a dance one Saturday a month. And school, my dad was a trustee, so he knew what was going on at school all the time.
Tell us more about your mother. What did she say about all this?
My mom was a saint.
We knew her as Nana.
Nana, yeah.
But when you were a little girl, did Nana make you wash your hands and brush your teeth and do all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah. And Mama made us study the catechism every Saturday morning. You didn't know that?
That was my question. Well, tell us about religion in your life.
Well, my dad was supposed to be a Lutheran, but he didn't believe, and his theory was that he remembers his great-grandmother was in so much pain that he thought there couldn't be a God. There wouldn't be a God who would let somebody suffer that much. But he was very against going to church. And my poor mom was Catholic and had gone to church all the time. And she would, on Christmas and Easter, she had to go to church. And he would pout for a week afterward because he had to take her to church. And I can remember in the spring when the lilac trees started to bloom, it hurt me because I knew Easter was coming and there was going to be problems.
Wow.
But anyway, Mama she got a catechism from Auntie Mary because her kids went to Sunday school. And she made Betty and I study the catechism every Saturday morning.
Did you spend much time with your grandparents?
I did, yeah, with Grandma de Meza. But my mother's mother died when I was, 5 years old, I think. I remember her, Grandma Fisher. She was a petite little lady, and she always had peppermint candy for me, for us. But my Grandma de Meza, I spent a lot of time with her. In fact, she lived to see a lot of great-grandchildren. My Grandpa de Meza died when I was 13, but he was a very serious man with a mustache. Whoops.
And what did he do for a living, your grandpa?
Oh, they had an orchard. They had prunes and apricots.
What about daylight saving time?
Daylight saving time. My father would never change his clock.
Because the cows couldn't tell time.
So this is after we were married, and I'd call my mom and say, "Mom, I'm going to pick you up," and she'd say, "At my time or your time?"
That's a loaded question.
So, Mom, what would you say to all of these young people, your grandkids and your great-grandkids, about the effect they've had on your life?
The effect
they've had on your life, having all these grandkids and great-grandkids.
It's been amazing. I just can't believe that all these beautiful kids belong to me. Oh, I have to tell you too, when the Japanese people were all living, there were 4 or 5 families, and they each had rented parts of our ranch, and they raised vegetables. But at one point, they started a Japanese school at our place, and every Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning, there would be classes. So one year, Betty and I decided we wanted to go to Japanese school with these kids. And so we did. And then really we had no business being there, because then we got all the attention from the teacher. Oh God. And then there was to be well, all the schools, there were different schools in the county, and they have a time when representatives from each school would meet at the Buddhist church and give a speech. So the guy, the Japanese, Mr. Asanuma, picked me to go learn to give this speech. And you think I could get the right pronunciation?
In Japanese.
In Japanese, oh yeah. So I remember the first sentence. Watashi wa 10月の初めからイストさんの税の日本語学校にいます。
Can you say it, Mom? Can you say it one more time, because the skateboarders were skating to it? Could you say it
real loud?
Yeah. Can you say it again?
私は10月の初めからイストさんの税の日本語学校にいています。
What does that mean? What does that mean?
That means in October, I started going to Japanese school in East San Jose.
Oh.
Wow.
But I remember every night I would go to this one Japanese lady that lived on our place and say that over and over and over again. Jane Sato. Until I got the right sing-song.
Konnichiwa.
Yeah, konnichiwa.
That's all I
Or sayonara. But I can remember going to that, and in the Buddhist church, oh my goodness, standing up there talking like I knew what I was doing.
And how old were you?
I must have been 14 or 15. Yeah.
Did you walk to Mount Pleasant School when you were in grade school?
We walked home, but Papa usually took us in the morning.
And how long did it take you to walk home? How far was that? A mile?
Oh, it was 2 miles. Well, we could walk. We could cut through an orchard.
Oh, yeah,
If you knew the shortcuts, and then cut through our property, or we could walk around the road and it would take us forever.
I have a question. Who is your favorite son?
You mean besides me? Who's next?
The one that comes up every morning.
After Larry. After Larry.
They're all pretty special,
There you go.
Natalie.
Great question.
And we should say who's the favorite great-grandchild or grandchild. Yeah.
Get her off the
Who's
book.
the favorite great-grandchild?
They want to know who the favorite great-grandchild is.
Like, who has the namesake? Me? Blue? Don't even. You're out.
Me. There's too many of them to be a
How about if
favorite.
we get the grandkids and great-grandkids?
Yeah, everybody
together?
stand around
with
behind
grandma.
grandma there.
See if we can
Grandma,
video
great-grandma,
and then
whatever fits.
Get Aunt Gina to take a picture.
Well, we'll get them all. Here, we're gonna keep this going, but I got to get it up like this so we can see them all in there. Get them in there. Somebody. If you're here, you're here. Come on, some of the just the grandchildren. There they are. Get in there, you guys. The greats down, but the grandkids are.
And they're not even all here.
I know. This is
just
of
a
course. This
smattering.
isn't.
These are the best.
These are just the ones that can handle a camp out.
Bobby, look this way.
Get
Look this way. Katie, look this way. Look this
Everybody
way.
look this way.
Natalie, look this way. Look this way, Jack. Jake.
Here comes you. Get Larry over. Bring Larry.
Oh, now they're flooding in.
Larry.
Little Larry. We should say little Larry. Little Larry.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. We're gonna have to kick you out of the campground. It's getting too rowdy. You have too many grandkids and great grandkids. You're gonna have to leave.
Okay. Andy and Larry, little Larry, Judy's head.
Martin, got 3 more coming.
Tommy. Get in there. All right.
Woo! Everybody look this way.
Andy, get in a little closer.
Charlie, Louie, Tommy.
Get in a little closer.
Little Larry. Fiona.
Look over here.
Natalie.
Great.
Annalise. Annalise.
Everybody say grandma.
And now say great grandma. 1, 2, 3. Great grandma.
This is an even better picture.
Rocky, smile. Cheesy. I remember.
Cake.
All right, good job. What do you think, Mom? Uh-oh, got Larry.
I know. You're not even tall enough to ride the merry-go-round.
Bookends, the oldest and the youngest. Currently.
Currently, you mean present.
Yeah.
Oldest and youngest currently.
Is there another youngest that I don't know about?
No, who's the oldest? Grant?